ideally we're here, you're coming in, that's your club head, right?
Yeah.
And you stay open. What you really want is watch my left wrist and my right hand. So now you're basically like turning a steering wheel clockwise. I just was playing because I love the game. Like, and it's scary to me.
It's really easy for the game to become a job.
Low six in his hands, whistle in his mouth.
Man, kids out there playing the game, staying out of trouble, competing. I love it. All right, so I think it was 3 weeks ago, you said something and I wrote it down and I forgot to ask you to expand on it. So I'm going to ask you now. We were talking about some of your interactions with Jordan Matthews, Coach Lee, and you said successful people leave clues.
Yeah.
And I wrote that down. I just said, I just quoted you and I said, write that down. Where did that come from? Like, is that a you thing or have you heard somebody say that? Where did that come from?
No, that's a Coach Lee thing. The first time I ever heard that was from him, and it stuck with me for probably like it stuck with you because it's so true. Like, and the first time he referenced it was when talking about the importance of writing things down, in which you alluded to last podcast. And so he's like, guys, anytime you're talking to, especially anybody successfully, like successful people leave clues, whether you're asking for them or they're just going to happen to speak them into existence because that's how they got there in the first place. So if they leave those clues, man, you should always be in search of those and writing those clues down. So that was the first time I'd ever heard of that. And that stuck with me because, like, if you were to say, I mean, I have, out of all these quotes I have here, like, obviously I reflect on them all the time, but like successful people leave clues, and love is action made visible was a really big one. Oh, that was a really cool one.
Heavy. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's a really heavy one. Love is action made visible. I was like, man, that's so true because, like, if you love coaching football, the way that you coach that will be seen, and that's the action part of it. Like if you love your family, the way that you protect them and provide for them, they will see that in action. So love is action made visible is one that sticks out to me as well. So yeah.
Well, and it's like the application of that can look 1,000 different ways, but it's still taking that statement, successful people leave clues. Like, what are you doing with those clues? Are you typing them out in a Google Doc so you can cut them up and put them on your desk? Are you just writing them down and then critically thinking, how can I apply this to like my personal or professional, journey? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Or are you just carbon copying? Because I think that there's certain situations where that's not a bad option either. Where, hey, this highly successful person does it this way, and that's like a whole niche on YouTube, right? Like, I spend a day living Mark Wahlberg's schedule. I spend a day eating like The Rock and working out like The Rock. Like, yeah. And it kind of sheds light on, how intense these people are with whatever it is that they're doing. But it also, like, this is what it takes to be successful on that path. And that's what you're going to have to match. So I just, like you did with a lot of things that Coach Lee said, I just wrote it down, and it's something that I think that there's a lot of different applications for that thought process. And it's something that I've tried to, through conversations with like our athletes and things like that, I've tried to wrinkle it into those talks and make sure that they understand that it's one of the biggest reasons that, like, being at Mount Vernon, there's, in the pretty recent history, it's produced some good college football players at the Division I and Division II level. And they haven't been around that much in the last couple of years. And I've tried to have conversations with those guys like, no, like, I want you around because, like, you're a physical, relatable example of success within what we're trying to do. And them just seeing the way that you move and your patterns, your routines, and your actions, that's a visual representation of, here's a great opportunity just to shadow and learn and, see what clues these people leave behind. So,
and everything that anybody ever does is obviously stolen for the most part, unless you're Marcus Aurelius and he, is the founding philosopher. But So I'm not saying that Coach Lee like came up with all these things. He may or may have not, but like I know he did not with this one. The one that he said one time that stuck, since we're talking about quotes, um, that I have given to my players, and it sticks with them, which I'm sure you've heard, is success is just a current or is just a lag effect of your current behavior. Um, and for those kids, like that really, once you explain them to that, it's like, hey, what you're doing now will come into fruition, whether it's good or bad in the near future. If you keep that in mind now in the present, that might alter your decision making for the better. Um, and so that was a big one that he guys talked about because from a kid perspective, I don't think that's what they think about, which is the present. I think most people struggle with that too. I mean, they're always talking about they're either, um, you know, dwindling on the past or they're worried about the future. All both those things are things that you cannot you control. One you already know of, one that you're worried about something that hasn't happened yet, and the one that you're not worried about is the one thing that you can't control, which is where your feet are at. And so I think for 18-year-old kids, that's one thing that um, any kids really that they don't think about enough is because they're worried about I messed up on this play or I messed up on this this in the weight room before. What am I going to get here in the future? And it's like, well, what are you doing now? Because what happens in the future is all about what you do now. So that was a big one too that really stuck with me. And I got to do a better job at like I don't know how you do it. I'm sure it's probably better. Like when I see or hear things from people and I write them down, I just write them down. I have a terrible system as far as like
And there's no context. So when you look
yeah,
at it 6 days later, you're like, wait, where was I
yeah,
in headspace? 100%.
yeah. And like and I wish what I like ideally what I have is I go to my Google Doc. I'm thinking about this right now out loud. This is not currently done at all. Um, what ideally what you have is you have a Google Doc and I don't even know how you would categorize it, but it's like, quotes, program philosophy, program action items. I don't know. And then anytime you hear something where maybe, hey, this is a coach did this and it's an action item, it goes there on that Google Doc. And then it's, hey, this is just a powerful quote. It goes there. Hey, this is a really cool thing that I saw this coach do in his program. It goes there. That's like ideally what you do because now it's like, okay, where did I write that thing down at? I probably lost the notepad. The only the only positive to it is like at least you wrote it down because obviously it stuck with you somehow, some way. You don't have the full context like you said, but at least you wrote it down. To me, that's the importance of at least writing things down. Is like there will be some permanence when you're writing that down, whether it's for 2 days or for 2 years. But I'm so bad about like where's it go? You know,
A hundred,
you
yeah,
need like
a
one of those
hundred
rocket books.
percent. It's just like when I look at perfect example, when I went to the DFW clinic and listened to Coach Witten talk, like I'll start taking, and I've done this for now 10 years. I sit down, I have a legal pad. Why do we take notes on a legal pad? Because that's what you draw plays on. So you might as well take notes on it. It's all right there.
Yep.
And I start taking notes and it's like, all right, this thought goes together. And then I like skip 3 lines and then I write something else. And then I skip
Yep.
3 lines and I write, and then like the guy's halfway through his talk and I've wasted half the page by skipping 3 lines. So now I'm writing sideways up the margin. And it's just like,
Yeah.
this is just all of it. I wrote down for a reason, but there's no flow and it's an illegal pad. So what do I got to do when I go listen to the next guy? Got to tear that page out. When I tear that page out, what if I tear too fast and I tear off part of that when I wrote vertically up the margin? Like, what if I tear that off? That's why one of the biggest things that I want to do moving into this summer and the rest of this school year is start getting like legitimate bound journals, date the top, significant conversation or action, boom, 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 put it in there, give a little brief like subnote context. That way at the end of the week, end of the month, end of the school year, like I can go revisit those things if there's ever any questions. And then like later on down the road, I'll figure out a way to take that hard copy, put it into a soft copy, get AI to organize it and do all that stuff. But that's let's just let's crawl before we try and win the 100-meter dash.
Have you seen a rocket book before?
Is that the thing where you write on a here, but it saves it like on a Google Drive or on a Google? Yeah, see that I wouldn't. I don't know. It could be, but I need the paper. Yeah. That makes me feel.
I think it is paper, is it not? I mean, it's not literal.
I thought it was just like almost looked like a Kindle.
I don't know. I don't look it up. I don't know.
You're talking about, and then you okay, I know what you're talking about, and the pen records it.
Yeah, I don't know if I know what I'm talking about. I know that it's called Rocketbook, and I know that what you write down physically
Goes
goes
to
into the Fugazi somewhere. Like I don't know where it goes.
into the
But
cloud, bro.
but somewhere where you can
Pull it
grab it,
back.
grab it. You know, so I don't know. I'm also
That's the
drinking two
worst part
coffee
about
cups.
being, yeah,
I
exactly.
don't know why, but yeah,
That's the worst
that
part about being like 26, 27, going to conventions and clinics and stuff. And they got all
yeah,
this technology for coaches. And you're like, oh man, we should use this. We should use it. And you're like, yeah, how do you use it?
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
what do you do now? Like,
yeah,
because then, especially, I remember we were at Salina and we started, the GPS things were really getting big in college football. Coach Elliott got with a guy in town and they bought, I think, like 24 of the GPS things for us to use. And they were great. And the kids wore them and we charged them and whatnot. And then we realized how much effort it took to like
it's
you have to have
overwhelming.
a coach. You have to have a coach that like that's all he does.
Hmm.
He can't do huddle. He can't
Nope.
do like scout team card prep. He can't do anything. He's got to come off the practice field, collect those, plug them in, download the data, organize it, print it off, put it into a pamphlet for each coach. Like,
Yep.
and that's not an easy task. And we
Nope.
just got it. And everybody already had their like 2-a-day tasks and like in season tasks. And
Hmm.
everybody's got 2 or 3 things that like that's what they manage their time around. And they're like, hey, by the way, let's try and implement this. And after like day 2, it was like, coach, you know, I didn't get these other things done because I was having to download the system to the PC to print off the papers. And I don't think that's going to happen this afternoon.
Yeah, I would
So,
imagine for high school that's got to be because at Vanderbilt that was like one of our assistant strength coaches.
right.
That was like so like obviously we weren't in the weight room, we were at practice. That was his sole job was just doing catapult GPS. Um, and his job was to sit out at practice. He has a little push cart with the computer, and the entire practice he is literally watching along with our trainer the loads for every kid, and that's where
Yeah. Who
obviously
falls
because college,
above, who falls below.
yeah, because like they would come to me, or whoever the QC or the GA, the assistant coach for that position group, they would come to me and be like, you know, obviously a quarterback's not hitting his lows. This is actually a bad example, but like they would come to the yeah, you know, they would come to the receiver coach and be like, hey, Travis is already about to hit his load, and we still have 2 more team periods, so you need to sit him out of this individual period. Um, you know, it's kind of that was their process for it, but yeah,
How
it's
did
valuable.
so that brings up something interesting because I could see at the high school ranks that becomes a problem because of like peer to peer perception and interaction. Like if you walk over, because obviously that's going to be one of your like high effort guys. Either it's a high
Right.
rep or just a high effort guy.
Yeah.
You walk over and you're like, hey, you got to shut him down for the next period. How did the guys do handling that? Like the rest of the receiver group?
Yeah.
Did
I
y'all ever
mean,
have any issues?
no, not really. Generally, no. It was more of the kid. Like the kid was pissed. Um, Obviously, because he's hitting his load because he's a high effort guy, and all of a sudden now he gets told, "Hey, put 0 effort in this period. Let me sit down and watch." Um, he didn't like that, you know. If it was a kid that just, you know, for some reason had a really low baseline, he didn't really have much effort at all. He was obviously fine with it, but it never really affected him too much. If we luckily it was always during a period, and we had a good relationship there, where like, you know, to me this is where communication amongst your staff is so important. Like, I know at the high school level it's tough, but like this is why you sit down with your whole staff and you look at the face of the schedule, right? And you're looking at it to say, okay, because like that coach would chime in the day before the practice. This is where it's really smart, right? So, for example, we're all in the team room, we're looking at the face, and it's it's kickoff day tomorrow, right? And that coach, that strength coach, would raise his hand and be like, "Hey, I see right now that you have team tempo, you know, period 2. Period 3, we have our special team circuit rodeo. Period 4, we've got kickoff, which I know that he's on because he's a freshman, but he's our best receiver. And then we have our team period, which is the most important, obviously, because we're trying to go open field this week against Georgia. Like, you're going to have to choose to sit one of them out because he's going to hit his load by then." And
Dude,
that's where that, to me, that's what I miss, truthfully, from a college perspective, because like that detail is like, whoa, you're right, because like I'm going to be yelling at the kid during the team period because he's doing terrible. And in reality, it's probably because he hit his load and he's so
yeah.
tired that he can't do it. And it's that was pretty cool.
But that's also, you only reach that level of A, communication, B, like execution, and C, organization, because that guy's mastered his role. Right?
Yes.
Whatever his assistant to the assistant, GA, strength conditioning, like whatever petty title he's been given, he doesn't care. He's like, this is it. I'm the catalyst to everything. That's how I view this. This is how I've got to treat it. And that brings me to a great point that I wanted to talk to you about, which is owning that role. And we've kind of touched on it before, but I was talking to a coaching buddy of mine, guy that listens to the show. We were talking about old regime, new regime, things that he's witnessed from afar, because he doesn't coach football, but he loves football, loves to watch it. Coached junior high football for a few years, but it's not his like main thing. And he said one of the biggest differences was that like when changed from old regime to new regime was that the purge of all the like I'm just a football guy mentality, right? Like all at the high school level, the guy that has to coach junior high basketball or, JV track or, JV baseball, whatever it is. And if you confront them about something, it's like, well, it's just JV track. Right. Cool. That's an approach. Or like we've talked about, you could be all in on being in the kid business and owning what it like when I got to Salina, I coached football and baseball, which was a comfort zone. Like that was a wheelhouse because I played those. Right. And then I found out quickly that track is a huge part of Salina football. And if I want to be directly a part of that, I've got to go earn and prove value. Whatever it is, whatever capacity. So that first year, I'm just running around trying to just be an extra set of hands. The next year, I get moved into track. And they're like, hey, you're going to coach hurdles and pole vault. Oh, okay. I don't know anything about those.
Yeah.
So the easy answer would have been stand in the middle of the field, spin my whistle, call out stopwatch times, but with minimal effort. And this isn't like about me at all, because 99% of the success that went on with any of the kids I coached in track was kid based. Their effort, their focus, their consistency, all those things. But I literally didn't know anything about hurdles except that they were part of a track meet. I didn't know when they went, like I didn't know when they ran in the order of a track meet. I didn't know how many there were in a race. I didn't know how far apart they were. I didn't know how the technique. But guess what? We live in a world where that information is at your fingertips. And it takes 3 YouTube videos for you to have more knowledge about something than 95% of the world. So if your willingness to be in the kid business and be great at whatever it is you do and master whatever your role is, whether it's monitoring catapult GPS for, load bearance on an athlete, or it's coaching junior high 8th grade basketball, like whatever that is, are you willing to master your craft? Because it's not about junior high basketball. It's about expectations, routine, consistency across the board, because kids aren't stupid and they notice if you treat one sport one way and another sport another.
Yes.
And that's what I've said before, and Marshall Falk just said to the Colorado Buffalo football team, how you do anything is how you do everything. So if you cut that corner, then there's going to be a corner that you cut in the fall, and the long story of my buddy's like interaction with that ended with the head basketball coach that he worked very closely with screaming at one of the old regime coaches, and that's why y'all never be better than 5-5. And then they all got fired. So, I love like what you were talking about, just that ownership. And obviously at the college ranks, you have more bodies, you have more hands, you have more eyes. So it's easier to get like into the trenches on those details, but also that ownership, I think is a huge piece. You have to want to do that.
Yeah. I think it's important that as a head coach, I'm over here speaking like I'm a head coach. I have no idea, but one day I will. Right. And so, I think it's important as a head coach. I would imagine that, like, okay, here's your example. I work for a company on the side, Ball Frog, whatever. It's an app. Shout out Ball Frog that encapsulates all things athletics, um, social media, newsfeed, roster, sponsorships, all things into your one custom app. If you want it, hit me up. It's a great way to celebrate student athletes. Anyway, so one of my jobs is I have to call athletic directors, um, and when you're dealing with these big schools like a Katy or a Dallas ISD, it's interesting because when you go to their website, it'll say Travis McLean, Assistant AD, Aquatics, um, TASO refs, um, marketing, communications. And then the other person will be, boys basketball, football. So everybody, yes, they're an assistant AD, but here's their labels underneath it. Obviously, I reach out to the guy that's got communications marketing, right? It's almost like you want to be able, as a head coach, if you're looking at the headshots of your coaching staff, it says like Trenton Kirkland, offensive coordinator, philosophical studier, technical, technical master, overthinker. Like Travis McLean, figure it out, head coach or whatever, OC at the time, figure it outness, like whatever. And then that way now here's the traits that are the intangibles of my coaching staff. So now I can assign certain roles because I know that if I give Travis pole vault and hurdles, I know that this guy over here who I have labeled, simple jack ball coach. If I give him that, he ain't going to be able to do it. But I know that Travis has the ultimate figured outness. I'm going to give that to Travis. Will he like it? No. But is he hell of a coach? Yes. And is he selfless? Yes. And he has figured outness. He'll figure out how to do it. Boom. I'm not doing that because I want to be mean to you. I'm doing that because you're the only guy that I trust to do it. There you go. And I think being able to have awareness of your staff in that regard is so important. Again, I'm just thinking of future reference for me, but I guess I'm thinking about too how I delegate my own staff right now underneath me from an offensive perspective. It's I have guys that I know that he's a running back coach / very common sense guy, very logical guy, very, very good task manager. I have this guy over here that he is more the mental and emotional management of the kids. They go to him for that type of stuff. And so any situations that pop up, I don't really think about position wise. I think about what are their little tiles underneath their names because he'd be the best guy to go figure that out, so on and so forth.
I wish I would have thought of it that way the first time like I became an OC and had to like delegate it responsibilities. Because I distinctly remember when I did it, it was like, okay, delegate based off of position.
Yeah.
O-line coach, all right, he's going to help with stunts and fronts. What if he doesn't know diddly squat about stunts and fronts? Mm-hmm. What if he knows block down, kick out?
Yeah.
And he's really good at it, right? Yep. He doesn't know if it's an Okie front. He doesn't know if it's, if it's double twos. He doesn't, all he knows is that you're going to hear B gapper and even. Like those are the word, and you know what he knows based off of that. And your block down and your kick out's going to be great. And they're going to be physical and they're going to punch and climb. They're going to do all those things. But if you just give him a responsibility because that's the O-line coach, or you just give him, passing game like concepts because he's the receivers coach. If you do that, which is exactly what I did because I didn't know any better. You don't know what you don't know. And now like thinking about this, okay, let me throw this into it. Let me ask you this question. Put yourself as the head coach or as the OC. Is there somebody like, do you do this by yourself? Do you sit down and go, okay, here's my 5-6 guys that I'm in charge of from the offensive staff. Do you go down and do those traits solo? Or do you like in my thought process, it would have been when I was at Salina, I was the OC, I would have gone to the DC and be like, here's my interpretation of my guys. Is that your interpretation being on the other side and just watching from afar?
Mm-hmm.
Or do you feel like that's something that you need to handle as the guy? Like this is my perception and that kind of is the only one that matters when making these decisions.
Yeah. I mean, truthfully thinking about it right now, I just kind of do that intrinsically. Not to say that what I'm not saying is what I label them, that's who they are, because obviously we all make mistakes and it could be wrong there. And I do think that so long that you're observant about it, you can see that actually I was a little bit wrong here and I can start changing that. I do think the importance of making it kind of to yourself is that so long you are observant, you can make those changes and they probably won't even have any idea. if you start to drift him into this other kind of bucket over here, and you kind of change this one and put him into this bucket, they really have no idea. All they're thinking is you're just making these decisions. I think the moment you start kind of telling them, here's who you are, you're kind of putting him in that bucket, if you will. And to me, it's more of just a managerial type of thing where that's your piece of the puzzle that's ever evolving. And so I kind of just do it myself, truthfully.
Yeah, by no means do I think that you should write these things down and then call a staff meeting and be like, all right,
Yeah.
you, simple Jack.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not going to give
Right.
you anything that requires critical thinking because you can't handle it. Because that's one of those things that, like, you know, treat a man how you see him, and that's who he'll be. Treat a man as he is, and he'll never change, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but by no means, but like I'm just thinking from my perception, you know, if I have a guy that I bring in, defense coordinator, and I say, hey, you're the assistant AD, you're the assistant head coach, whatever that role is, like I see that more of a corroboration or like an affirmation of, you know, and it has to be somebody that understands what the goal is, right? And it has to be somebody that you trust, because you don't want them to go over and be like, I mean, coach thinks you're a simple Jack anyway. I don't know why you're worried about doing that right. You know? So I definitely see what you mean. Like that could be a two-way street, a double-edged sword for sure, where like you dig yourself into a hole by, you know, trying to pull in too many, you know, you're trying to corroborate too much with outside sources instead of just letting that be like a normal process. Like it's one that never ends.
Right.
So yeah, that one could definitely, you could get yourself into some trouble if you
can.
Hey guys,
and
all right,
like,
staff meeting, personality evaluations.
You're going to have to do that sometimes. Like I remember I was at Vanderbilt and we had a staff meeting, and, you know, at the college level, you can only have so many headsets. You know, you're limited. I can't remember the number, truthfully. But so we're having a staff meeting, and and the OC is going around, and, you know, he's like, obviously full-time guys, you got headsets, whatever. So now we're going to the GAs and QCs. And it's like, hey, you know, so-and-so, hey, I trust you with this. I need you on this. You're good at it. You're going to have a headset and you'll be in the box. Hey, so-and-so here, you know, whatever. TK, hey, you're really good with the emotional part with the quarterbacks and being able to see a little bit of the back end as well. And you're going to handle, obviously, what I say through the headset, because he was a box guy on the sideline. You'll just basically be the translator. So you're going to have a headset. Great. All right, hey, so-and-so, you know, not going to have one. You're a good hype man. Do what you do. And like, he was telling the truth. But I just remember after that meeting, that guy who didn't get the headset was like, I'm just the hype man. You know what I mean? And it's like, and again, you got to make the decision. Oh, wow. And you do have to say it. I mean, it is what it is. Like, but
isn't it funny how like that becomes like now ego gets put in front of something like that? Like,
correct.
Hey, how many QCs and GAs did y'all have, and analysts, like on the offensive side? 5, 6, 7?
Yeah. Well, so GAQC, and analysts for us, really, they were all just the assistant coaches. So each position had one, right? So you're looking at obviously receiver coach, running back, quarterback, and O-line and tight end. So 5.
So you have 5, right?
Yeah.
And like y'all are not calling a play.
Mm-hmm.
You're not calling a play. But
right.
Pride gets to the point where it's like, now there's this, we it's the ranking thing, right? Like, oh, but these 3 got a headset and I didn't. Right.
Yep.
And now, but that circles back to the you know, the junior high basketball thing. It's like, okay, but like you're the hype man. And right now that's your lane for this season. Can that lane change? Yes. You've probably got to prove that your growth and development in the off season. But right now, can you be the best hype man? Can you never let it fall? Coach Belton, who was a running back, fullback at Syracuse. He was an assistant strength guy for Coach Kaz when we were at Baylor. Ultimate hype man. Never stopped. Saw him break a stool in the Oklahoma State locker room. He was so hype. Like with his bare hands.
Yep.
Like, but that was his lane and he knew it. And like, you can't have, the strength staff couldn't have 6 Coach Beltons. Yeah. You have to have the balance, and you have to have different types of, and you as a member of that team, a member of that staff, why do we take that personal? And I've done it. Yeah. And I don't understand it. That's a legitimate question. Why do we take that personal? Why is pride so valuable that you're like, I didn't get a headset? I had one. Like my first year really contributing and being on the field in 2009, I I was a clipboard guy. I was a receiver clipboard guy, right? Because
Yep.
I was playing special teams. So I had to write play, down and distance, hash, gain loss, right? Like very normal things. And then try and star the big plays, right? Who
Yep.
to go to, blah, blah, blah. Very simple stuff. But I didn't want to hold the clipboard. You know why?
Mm-hmm.
Because look at these guys. They're getting to like wear their helmet.
Mm-hmm.
Are they going to go in? No. Are you going to go in before them? Absolutely. Why did I take the clipboard so personal?
Yep.
Right. And then obviously you mature and grow and you're like, man, there's 60, 70, 80,000 people here. They're not looking at like, who gives a crap? If anything, they're behind me. They can't even see the clipboard. But
Yes.
like, why was that such a big deal? And it's just, that's the human emotion aspect. That's like,
Mm-hmm.
we take everything as like a ranking system
Mm-hmm.
and like where you fall and like who's better, who's worse. And then like you just touched on, that comes back to like the mental emotional stuff of like, how do you've got to train your body to flush that. And
Mm-hmm.
it has to be like an active process. I mean,
Yes.
that's way more up your alley. I know enough buzzwords to be dangerous.
No, no, you're right. Like when to me, what you just said is so important because I think of two things, right? So, um, we are so everything that goes through our filter to me, and people could disagree. I think the initial thought everybody has is the most selfish. For the most part, like everything is about me. Like people are going to see me holding the clipboard. In reality, there may be three people that see you, and it's your mom, your dad, and your little sister. Like nobody really cares about you. Like, and not to be negative, but like, but that's kind of how we think. And so I think that we always and we allow um, these titles or descriptions of us or of our who we are to become our identity, and we think that I'm just a clipboard guy. What you are saying, even though you're not saying it, is that I am not good enough to play. Um, I'm not good enough to do this. I can just hold a clipboard. That's what you're saying. And in reality, that ain't even close to what he's saying. So like we intrinsically create all of these narratives of ourselves, which I'm the worst at because like I'll sit there and I'll go home and I will think for 4 or 5 hours of what that person probably thought. When in reality, the person that made that decision thought about making that decision. It took them 2 seconds. It's like what I try to do a really good job of is like I can't let things bother me that literally that person is not even thinking about. If it's something that I need to confront, I will. But if I'm going to sit here and just dwell on it for 7 hours and that person hasn't thought about it since the moment it came out of his mouth, I'm an idiot. That's A. So you're right. The title of it is like what we sit there and think. Oh, I'm just a clipboard guy, which means I'm not good. That doesn't mean anything. It actually might mean the opposite, and that's why you're getting it. But you are stupid, too stupid to think about that. So anyway, that's A. B, what I do think whenever I become a head coach one day, I don't think I'm trying to say this without I don't want to judge like past coaches, but like because everybody makes mistakes. I think when we're making decisions from a authoritarian perspective, I don't think we enough at times consider the mental and emotional state of mind that meeting or that decision is putting on. So here's the example. I guarantee you, ROC at the time, who I think is one of the best there ever was, I guarantee you, ROC at the time had no clue that when he made the announcement at 8 a.m., that at 3 p.m. we were going to have our headset meeting. I guarantee you he had no idea how much stress, vocal output there was from every GA and QC and how much nervousness there was from 8 a.m. until 3 p.m. Guarantee you he had no idea. To him, it was just a meeting, right? And so there wasn't any consideration to like, this is actually a huge deal to these guys. I think a lot of head coaches might not realize, like, let me put myself in their shoes. Yes, I'm making the decision. And yes, at the end of the day, that's what ultimately matters. But emotionally, like, what is this putting them through right now? I think I need to consider that. And there is a balance there, right? Like, I've been a part of head coaches before, here or wherever, where they make these decisions, and it's like do you even understand that I have a family? Like, like did you even think about that before you made this decision? And maybe they don't have a family. And to me, that's like ultimate, like kind of red flag. Like you better put yourself in their shoes because yeah, it's a business decision, but at the end of the day, like when you make these crazy decisions, you're dealing with the family, and that's where to me, Coach Lee was so good because like he thought through all of these things, and whether it was a decision that had to be made regardless and it was going to hurt, or maybe he would alter it because of it might hurt the family. Like he was so good about that. I don't think enough head coaches do that. They just make these decisions based off of selfish, intrinsic motivation. And at the end of the day, it's all about them. In reality, it's like, no, if it wasn't for that guy, you wouldn't be where you're at. And that's where the co-collaboration to me comes into play, where the head coach is like, no, you're either like, you're becoming Hitler right now. And it's like, no, like this is not a dictatorship because without us, none of this is happening. Like you shouldn't be behind us cracking the whip. You should be in front showing us how to do it. And we're going to do this together.
You know who was really good about that?
Who?
Coach Prowse. Remember the first time? Remember the first time?
Yeah. Yeah.
He said he doesn't want to see anybody here after 7. Wait, what?
Yeah.
They're all going to go home happy and the sun's going to be up?
You mean they're going to actually see their children for the first time this week? Like what? Like, are you kidding me?
Dude, yeah. So there are just so many things that like you said and wanted to like answer, but that's one of the reasons that I want to write stuff down. Like,
yeah.
That, and I wish I obviously would have started like a structured, more organized version of write stuff down earlier, is because in 5 years, I'm probably going to be at a comfort level where I don't remember what it was like being the first or second year head coach, where like you're hanging on every word of assignment. Like, hey, you need to do this. And it's like, oh, like, how did I weigh that emotionally? Was that a good assignment or was that like a blow off assignment? Like, hey, just go move the old shorts from this cupboard to that cupboard. Right? Like, did I give you one of those, or did I give you something that person's going to value as like, hey, this is game plan important, right? Whether it is or not, but like, I need to make sure that I still remember what those emotions and processes and thoughts were, right? Yeah. Because I do think that that's a huge missing piece. You know, I heard a story of a head coach that he was frustrated for whatever reason. And he told one of his coordinators, he was like, listen, this is at the high school level. So like a little different. He said, listen, you know, I know you have hobbies and like, you know how to do this and you know how to do that. But like when you want to go out racing cars or like you're learning how to like fix stuff around your house or like you're starting another business, like those are your hobbies. My hobby's watching film. And like whether that's true or not, that's so like, that's just, well, this is what I'm doing because of how invested I am. And it's like, cool, but like, okay. And then football season ends and you just keep doing it? Or like, are there other ways that you're investing in yourself and your family and the program? Like, or is it just like X's and O's, alignment, assignment, technique? Like, are those the only things that you're bringing to the table? Because if it is, as a head coach, that is a horrible place to come from.
Oh yeah. I feel like a lot of them are that way. Like, that's a great point you brought up because, like, here's what I believe. If you put out 3 different coaches on the field and had them do the exact same task, one coach does, let's say, minimal study in the off season. He's an incredible coach and he can limit vernacular and make it very, very efficient, right? And he knows the game very well. You have the other coach who is less than him, kind of in the middle. Then you have another coach who studies his butt off all off season. You go to huddle, you see that he watches 7 hours of film every single day, but he can't really coach very well. And does he actually love the game? I'm not sure. Maybe he just didn't want to be around his family a lot. I don't know, right? But he thinks that is what justifies him being a head coach is the amount of work he does. At the end of the day, we gave him the same task, and the coach had put in less time, but actually knows how to communicate, knows how to direct kids, and knows that what he puts on the field is a direct reflection of his guidance that he's given them so far. That coach is better. And it had nothing to do with the fact that, the other coach watched 7 hours of film a day. At the end of the day, dude, coaching to me, you can develop a lot of things there, and I think you have to, but you either got it or you don't in a lot of areas. And it comes down to the amount of information that you can absorb, more importantly, the amount of information that you can make sure that that kid is taught, not heard, but how much he can actually be taught. That is like coaching to me. And if I can say in 2 sentences what this coach can say in 20, I just won.
Yeah. And
So,
the thing about
you
it
know,
is that, like, because it's everybody's not the same, right? Like, but you also, you don't want to be Coach JB from Last Chance U. That's like, I don't even know if I watched 30 minutes of film this week, but we still gonna score
right,
60, and then they go out and lose. Like, you don't want to be that.
right.
But
No,
like, film time, what is that bringing you? If you don't, if it's not a translatable, are you watching or are you learning? Right? Because I feel like so many
right.
guys just watch and it's all about perception. This looks as though I'm learning when really I'm
Mm-hmm.
just watching.
Yep.
It took me years to learn how to watch film,
Yeah.
like after playing, to really, because when I would watch film at Baylor, I would only watch the things that affected me. What affected me? Triangle, free safety, right? Like secondary and outside backers. Those are the only things I had to worry about. How did you watch them? Did you watch the triangle? Did you watch the corner? Did you watch the free? Did you watch the strong? How did you, are you watching how they communicate? Like, but that's, even if I watched them all at the same time, that's less than half of the defense on the field.
Mm-hmm.
So my ability to go through information faster because I'm having to consume less, right? And
Yeah.
then you go and you've got to watch. You can't just watch 11. You got to watch all 22. How did this guy interact with that guy? How did their interaction
Mm-hmm.
change their, the defense's interaction? This, that, and the other. So I had to relearn how to learn. Who told
Yes.
us that?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so when you consider all those processes, if you're not becoming more efficient to where I can do that, when I was 26, if I can't do the same amount of work that 3 hours of film took in an hour and 15 now, then I haven't grown as a coach
Right.
because I don't
Yeah.
understand the value of that extra hour and 45 minutes that I just gained. But I also haven't made an effort to change or grow in my information consumption, right? And then it just comes down to, I have, like, you said this and it reminded me of how shocked I was when I really started to pay attention. It is almost repulsive how many coaches I've come across that it's blatantly obvious they just don't want to go home.
Right.
Right. And that's not because they live alone, the blah, blah, blah. They're saying, no, it's like there's, you know, they got 3 kids waiting on them and a wife and, this, like, and they just don't want to go. And
Right.
that's insane to me.
Yes.
Why did you, like, but it's all about the perception, right? They got to create, like, oh, I'm working really hard, but like, look how great of a family man I am. I have all these kids and this, that, and the other. And then you get into that tightrope, like, balancing act of, like, are you more concerned with perception or are you more concerned with reality?
Right.
Which one of those buckets is going to fill up faster? Because
Yes.
in my opinion, when you're more concerned with reality, you're going to fill both buckets at the same time. But if you're more concerned about perception, you're going to overload and fall off.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. That's, I was talking to Jordan about this the other day, and I can't remember if I've talked about this before. Um, but we were talking about culture of sports and that is actually very interesting. We can talk about it another time. The culture of sport that you're allowing your children to go into. Not a lot of people think about that, but we were also talking about culture of obviously football. And I was telling him, I was like, it's interesting because, for example, when I was at Vanderbilt, when I would lay my head down at night and go to sleep, I was excitingly talking and thinking about scheme, what the next day, was going to hold for us, how I was going to attack the next day, what could my quarterback do better. It is very positive, right? I've been at other places before where I would lay my head down at night and I'm thinking about how unhealthy the ecosystem and the people within that system are. I'm not even thinking about scheme, right? And like if you think about it, like if you have an unhealthy ecosystem and the staff you're around is not very good, the head coach and the environment that he creates is not very good, you can't even think about scheme because that is so not important compared to what you're having to deal with on a daily basis, which is like managerial drama and like what are we doing? Like we're not organized here, we're not doing this, we're not doing that. And it's like you can't even think about scheme. Whereas if the ecosystem you're in, which is growing like beautiful grass, you don't have to think about that anymore because the air is healthy and everybody's happy and you're charged and you're ready to go in and you get the enough breaks that you need because you're able to go on a break and go to the mountains and recharge and refuel and you come back and you're so excited to watch film that the quality of that is incredible. Whereas your other places, it's just not at all. And like I can't even worry about skiing because I just hope that as a staff we even get to the practice in a healthy manner. Um, I think that's kind of a thing to think about because it's you know if you're dealing with having to deal with the people versus like I've created this culture as a coach that they know the standards, it's black and white. What I have labeled as black and white is not 30 things, it's 5 things, and those 5 things take care of the other 30 things. We're good to go. um, that is going to be my goal moving forward as a head coach is like, here's my 4 or 5 things that I've labeled, and I've been very meticulous about these 4 or 5 things are black and white because I know these 4 or 5 things will take care of the other 30 to 40 micro things that most head coaches don't think about, whereas most head coaches have 50 micro things that every coach is now worried about, and there's actually nothing that's black and white. So it's interesting just when you lay your head down at night, like what's the environment of the system that you're in uh, allowing you to think of or be free of when you're going to sleep. Maybe that's stupid and deep. I don't know, but